First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for kicking my mom out? My 42 male mother moved in with us temporarily as her place in a retirement community is being finished. She has been a nightmare since she's moved in. She is constantly up my wife's butt, complaining, nitpicking. She's always got something to say about how she'd never do something my wife does, but then hypocritically says, it's fine if I do the same thing. My wife, who has the patience of a saint, doesn't complain. But I've been told by both our children, 16 male and 13 female, about things she said and done. I've told her more than once that she's a guest in our house and to knock off her crap. I feel terrible I didn't realize that she was just getting sneakier about it. It came to a head on Wednesday. I was doing a project when my son came in and asked to talk. He said I needed to do something about my mother because he's seen my wife cry more than once because of her. My daughter said she has too, though my wife tries to hide it. After gently pressing my wife about it, she admitted it was true and told me how much she was starting to hate being home now because it was so nonstop with my mom, and she didn't say anything because she wouldn't ever want to put me in a bad spot or make me feel like I had to choose. I was furious. My wife should never feel uncomfortable in her own home. I confronted my mom, who immediately turned on the tears. It was taken out of context. My wife just doesn't like her. She's telling me lies. I told her to pack her stuff. I'd allowed her to hurt my wife for far too long. I dropped her off at my aunt's house yesterday. My aunt says I made the right decision, and my wife and kids needed to be comfortable in their own home. My mom and brother are furious, however, and say I'm an a-hole for making her homeless. I told my brother he could take her in then, but that's not an option somehow. I don't think I was the a-hole at all, but my wife feels like we caused problems in my family. So, am I the a-hole? Added to add, I wanted to thank everyone for their kind words. A few people mentioned my wife not communicating what was going on. Well, she came from a very abusive home, and that is a contributing factor. Her mom always used to say not to make her choose, which I think might be why she said what she did. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. You are a good husband. I've seen far too many posts where the wife is in misery because the mother-in-law is horrible to her, and the husband either does nothing or sides with his mother. Don't let your mom and brother get to you. You did the right thing. Even your aunt thinks so. Good on you for being there for your wife. This, not the a-hole. Very funny that your brother's judging you but won't take her in either. That's some ridiculous behavior. Your mom is welcome to rent an Airbnb if she doesn't want to be homeless. Absolutely not the a-hole. It's so refreshing and satisfying to read something like this. Finally, someone who has their priorities straight. As someone who is dating a mama's boy, I can only hope one day he will shift his loyalty, for lack of a better word, to me. Take your wife out on a date and tell your kids you love them and prioritize them. Good for you. Yes, this family is awesome. Not only did Opie support his wife, so did the kids. That is a sign of a close family to me. Not the a-hole. Your brother is the a-hole though. Your mother, definitely. You did cause problems with the family, but frankly, your wife was being too passive and you took control of the situation. The mother-in-law caused the problems with the family. Opie fixed the problems. It's a hell of a wedge to drive in between a child and their parent, no matter what age. The nurturing caregiver that raised you will always be given the benefit of the doubt at first. It takes a shiny spine to tell your spouse that they need to kick the mother out. It's understandable that it went on for too long, but he stepped the hell up and didn't let his mother play her games. Now for the second story. Am I the a-hole for choosing not to sew baby quilts or dresses or anything other than housewares for my family? I started sewing when I was around 18. When I got to college, there was this girl, Allison, in my dorm who brought her sewing machine, and I could hear her doing stuff through the wall. I got up the nerve to say hi to her, and I spent so many hours on her bed watching her sew while we watched TV and talked. She taught me some basics, and I eventually saved up to get my own machine. My family didn't really support this. They've always been kind of, who has the time for that people? Anything that isn't sports or work is bad, because people should always be in the pursuit of more money, more cars, dating up, getting rock-hard abs, etc. The first year, I made everyone simple but useful presents, aprons, pot holders, zipper pouches, etc. My dad is the only one who appreciated it. An apron meant for grilling. He still uses it. One sister said, "Oh, so you don't have a job?" When I moved in with Allison to some off-campus apartments, my family started going in on lecturing me about not bettering myself constantly. Mind you, I was in school to be a teacher. 7 years passed, Allie gets married, and I sew her wedding dress. She's more of a sister than my actual sisters. This is the first time my family takes interest, because now I can be of use to them. Jen sees the dress and starts telling me what she wants for hers. Annie tells me what she wants for Flower Girls. I told them no. They didn't take it well. Now, there's talk of grandchildren, and everyone has started looking at me to step up and make family heirlooms quilts for the babies, as well as all kinds of other things. They tell me, what's the point of sewing if you're not going to sew for your family? I told everyone, why would I sew anything for any of you when you laughed at me and told me I was wasting my time? It didn't go over well, and my sisters have labeled me a bitter, hateful witch who won't let go of the past. And that I am jealous that they are successful in their careers while I'm scraping glue off desks. I teach high school, so no. A few friends have told me that my outburst was childish and that I shouldn't punish the grandchildren for my family being crappy to me. In my mind, I'm not punishing anyone. Punishing them would be taking away something rather than just not going out of my way to spend a lot of time sewing for people who are ungrateful. Plus, and I hate to say this, just because they're related to me doesn't make them family. I compromised and said I would make everyone some pot holders for Christmas. They told me to not bother coming if I'm not going to be a member of the family. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Also, wow for sewing an entire wedding dress. That's not easy and sounds like you're very, very skilled. And no, they want to use you without actually appreciating you. I'm pretty sure they won't even pay you or even provide materials. You're not punishing anyone because you're not taking away anything. No is no. They're not entitled or deserving to your free labor and time. They're not entitled or deserving to your free labor and time. Yeah, and I can't even understand why you compromised. They can go duck themselves. And OP, grow some backbone. Not the a-hole. They were mean and petty, and now they want presents? Made using the skill they were mean about? They are less clever than they think they are. The skill they are being mean about. They clearly don't understand the level of effort and talent that goes into making something like a quilt. They've just decided it should be no biggie for OP since it's not like she has a real job. Screw that. Not the a-hole. Honestly, I think your family members sound really insecure. They're also focused on status and achievement, and then they see you having a hobby you really enjoy, a good friend who is dear to you, and a career that fulfills you even though it's low status, which I don't agree with at all, but just sticking with the perception. And honestly, they just don't know what to think. You are happy and fulfilled by perfectly ordinary things, while they have loads and it's still not enough. So, they try to make you feel bad in order to feel better about themselves. It's sad, really. You're right. By the way, family isn't just the one you're born into, it's the one you choose. If your blood family can't accept you for who you are and be happy that you are content with your life, then screw them. That's not what family does. Well, sooner or later, some obligations around legal kin are hard to avoid. When it comes to optional things like family Christmas, don't force yourself to participate if you're not going to get anything out of it. Instead, surround yourself with people like Allison who accept you and love you for who you are. People like her are your real family. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not letting X off the hook on child support so he can afford his new life? My ex-husband had a 4-year-long affair. I only came to learn about this affair because he got the other woman pregnant. We are now divorced, they are married, and they have a 2-year-old together. X and I share an 11 and 12-year-old. As of last year, I have primary custody because he and his wife and their child moved 4 hours away, which the courts considered too far to maintain 50-50 timeshare. The business X worked for collapsed due to COVID back in April, and X was out of work for several weeks. In that time, he asked me to take him off the hook for child support, which meant no back pay for the weeks. And because I said no, he brought me back to court. All the court did was readjust the amount he owed because of their lost income. X's wife has since got a job, and he say that they are still struggling because neither make good money. He asked me again to let him off the hook. He said their daughter is suffering because between keeping the roof over their head and paying child support, there isn't much left to provide for her. I told him that is not my problem. My concern will always be our children. He claims if I can afford to provide for them without him for a period of time, it is the right thing to do, because his other daughter is their half-sister, and as such, it is my role to make sure she is cared for too, or at least it should be, if I am a good mother and a caring person. I told him the discussion was over, and I want the child support for my children. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Child support is for the benefit of your children. If he wants an amendment to the child support agreement, he needs to talk with the courts further. You are right, not your business. He and his wife need to hustle more. He knows the court won't lower it more than they already have. The fact she is now working could increase it. So, he knows it's not safe to do so, which is why he's coming to me about it. But I look out for my children first. Take him to court for an increase. The court adjustment payments based upon their real income, which I guarantee he is lying to you about. Perhaps, if he learns his whining only gets him dragged into court and forced to pay more support, he will man up and quit crying to you about the consequences of his actions. But I look out for my children first, because you are a responsible parent. That would cost me money, so I will leave the child support as it is. If he wants to go fight for a further increase, he is entitled to, and I will enjoy saving the extra child support if that happens. I like to think I am. I have always put my kids first and their feelings and needs, even when it was painful to do so. But like I told a friend who asked, being responsible and putting them first doesn't mean I'm going to let him walk all over me either. Not the a-hole. If he didn't want to pay child support, he shouldn't have had an affair. It's not your responsibility to make sure his daughter is cared for. If he can't afford to provide for his daughter and pay child support, he should get another job. Agreed, but he did. And he had no choice but to let it come out, so now he is reaping what he sowed. Don't feel guilty. The courts take his family size into consideration when calculating child support. He can pay to go back and ask for another adjustment if he needs it. One thing I've learned from my ex-husband is to never agree to anything outside of the court order. It only ends in problems. Not the a-hole. His new life, or lack thereof, is not your problem. He had the affair, he had more children, and as a parent, it's his job to provide for all his children. If he is struggling, he needs to figure it out, but it's not your job to make sure his other child has what she needs too. The fact that he brought that up was ridiculous. Exactly, OP. You are providing for your kids. If you remarried and had a third kid, would he have to pay child support on that kid? His logic is all backwards if he thinks you are only a good mother if you are helping him raise the kid he had with another woman. You are a good mother to your kids. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe.